What's going on, everybody? Listen, I was just about to power down for the evening, and I came across a Harvard Business Review article that talks about what to do if your career is stalled and you don't know why. It's by Elena Botello and Katie Craig. And I just felt compelled that I had to share this. So I'm just going to read an excerpt of it because I think that, especially with the pivot that I've made into business storytelling and really trying to figure out how does this work internally, this is like probably the best. It probably just might be one of the seminal resources or references that I'll be using as I continue doing my research into this. And how do we take the storytelling framework as a strategic asset and really deploying it into the workspace, like not just for business brand messaging, and but into the workspace. So take a look. So it starts off: a CEO whom we'll call Melissa was exasperated. Having delivered 7 years of breakthrough performance and nearing retirement, she was eager to select and prepare her successor. Members of her executive team were strong in their current roles, but none was quite right for the top job. As we considered a broader group of potential candidates, the Chief Human Resources Officer, or the CHRO, chimed in with an idea. What about Tom? He's very strategic, and his teams would make or would take the hill for him. He might be worth looking at as an option. Then the CHRO paused for a moment and added, of course, there is this issue of his executive presence. Tom often hogs the spotlight in meetings, unaware of how that alienates his peers. And, well, I don't know how to put this, but he has a noticeable body odor. It's a real turnoff. Well, Melissa agreed. Tom is a brilliant business mind, but I just can't see him representing our company. As it turns out, for 18 years, guys, listen, for 18 years, Tom had received stellar performance reviews and top bonuses on the strength of his performance. He's a top player. Executive presence, in quotes, was mentioned in several reviews as an improvement area, but without any specifics. Tom had no idea what the real issue was and how damaging it could be to his career. Having assessed over 2,000 CEOs and over 18,000 C-suite leaders since 1995, and this is Elena and Katie talking here. So this is the research that they've been doing. So over 2,000 CEOs and over 18,000 C-suite leaders since 1995, we are struck by how often careers of talented executives stall or even derail because of seemingly trivial issues, many of which are utterly fixable. We call these types of issues, quote unquote, pandas. Pandas look innocent, but their powerful jaws deliver a bite stronger than a jaguar's. Wow. Pandas can be painfully costly to individuals whose careers stall for reasons unbeknownst to them, and to organizations and managers unable to develop talented leaders to their full potential. Guys, this is a storytelling issue. And when I'm going to read these statistics, you're going to see the top two pandas, the most common types in the top two, makes up over 60% of why people can't break the ceiling, so to speak. Now, there are other issues as well. Don't get it twisted, right? We have equality issues, and there are a few other things. So when we talk about executive presence to a particular culture, especially when we're dealing with now diversity, equity, and inclusion, there's a whole nother ball game. But however, still want you to know that there is a story that's being told here. So to better understand this phenomenon, we analyzed a sample of 113 strong performers who were finalists for C-suite roles but got turned down in the final decision round. In reviewing detailed assessments of their capabilities, we uncovered that 62% had at least one panda issue, and 10% had more than one. So furthermore, 35% of these executives, pandas, were considered among the top 3 risks identified with respect to this individual's fit to a role. So often these pandas live on for years, seemingly innocent, but ultimately not at the career trajectory of otherwise talented leaders. And I'm going to add in here, they probably put it in here as well, that these particular pandas, these innocent but jaws of life, like a jaguar, pandas can also undermine a culture in a business, like the actual environment of the business, especially if there are particular people who are top but never seem to make it, and other people kind of are looked at to get that position, you better believe that there could be a lot of, talking and maybe some rumors and things of that nature, which can kind of unravel a particular organization. Not all the time, but it's a potential. So here's their analysis. Our analysis uncovered the most common types of pandas. Y'all ready for this? Take a look at this. The most common types of pandas. 36% of pandas are related to executive presence. 28% are related to communication style. That's 64% right there, y'all. Okay. So 38 executive presence, 36 executive presence, 28 communication style, 29% related to peer level relationships, and the remaining 7% included excessive optimism and perfectionism. Wow. So I'm just going to we're going to just look at the first two, executive presence and communication style. So what they're saying here is that with executive presence, this is an ill-defined catch-all for a multitude of issues, from the seemingly trivial career damaging body odor to deeper challenges, such as when someone doesn't carry him or herself in a way consistent with company culture. So often executives who fail to appear confident get comments about lackluster executive presence. Dismiss the panda at your peril, but our research shows highly confident executives were 2.5 times more likely to be hired. This reminds us of Brian, a brilliant investment professional at a top firm who was passed over for promotion to partner due to his poor executive presence. Asked to coach Brian, he gathered extensive feedback from his colleagues and external parties, and it turns out that while respected for his intellect, Brian showed up as a meek and understated, he showed up as meek and understated, leaving others with a perception that he was junior and not ready to represent the firm as a partner. Pause. Okay. So once again, this is now a story that Brian has been telling himself. Not only been telling himself, but now this has been communicated to other individuals. His deportment was that of someone who was just getting their skin in the game versus an individual who's been in this for quite some time and is at the top of his craft. Now, in this case, investment. This is very important, you guys, because when we're talking about telling stories about yourself to yourself, and that's actually one of the courses that I'm releasing, is dealing with the story that you need to share about yourself so that you can understand how to lead with executive strengths. So that being said, this is what they did. They helped Brian identify and address the specific behaviors and created this perception. And today he is a highly profitable partner at the firm. Here's the second one, communication style. So complaints about communication style usually concern how one speaks up or doesn't in various forms. And forms as in F-O-R-U-M-S. Okay, so forums. One's communication style shapes first impressions and can have a significant impact on career trajectory. So lagging on communication effectiveness showed up as a risk area for 28% of executives that we analyzed. Take Jim, a front-runner CFO candidate for a leading medical device manufacturer on the verge of an IPO. So Jim's resume checked all of the boxes and then some, but his Achilles heel, get this, guys, was a long-winded, almost philosophical communication style. It was more befitting a cerebral academic than a bottom line oriented CFO who can drive performance and credibly represent the company with the investment community. And one of the biggest things that I've learned, especially in the MBA that I just finished, is that when it came to presentations and PowerPoints, if you didn't do it in less than 5 minutes, you weren't getting the top grade. Like all of your PowerPoints had to be like to the point, not philosophical, not with the fluff. Let's get straight to the numbers. Let's tell the story through the numbers and explain your solution, and then just keep it moving. Because at a C level, you don't have time to be waxing eloquent and, kind of looking at all of the aspects and taking the long road. And you look at all the aspects, but not taking the scenic route. You get straight to the point here. So here it is that, So Jim here is cerebral academic versus the bottom line oriented CFO. So they say our research shows that candidates who used more esoteric. Oh, y'all, some of us try so hard because we think that in order to be at the C level, you have to sound more scholarly. Our research shows that candidates who used more esoteric, intellectual, or ivory tower vocabulary were 8 times less likely to be hired compared to candidates who used more colloquial language. Down to earth storytelling. Come on. Down to earth storytelling, drawing on memorable results, is vastly more powerful than a cerebral academic style. Another common communication pitfall has to do with use of we and I. The weakest candidates for C-level roles used I at twice the rate of the rest of the sample. The most successful candidates are clear about their individual contributions without ever overusing I. Candidates who go on and on with their own accomplishments impress decision makers less than the ones who say, my proudest achievement was the moment the team began to knock it out of the park, and then clearly explain the role in the group's achievement. Finally, we were disappointed to uncover, this is Katie and Elena here. We were disappointed to uncover that CEO candidates for United States-based companies who had significant accents were 12 times less likely to be hired. While in-group biases, remember we just talked about DEI, guys. While in-group bias is a deep and persistent issue in hiring, we found that at least for some of these executives, their insufficient language fluency led them to be perceived as less competent than they were. And that, as this bias was brought to light, they worked to improve fluency and reduce the accent, their career trajectory improved. So these are just the two that are two out of the five that are explained here. Actually, no, two out of that. I think they just stop at the peer. But when you get a chance, I'll probably just put the link. But it's called "What to Do If Your Career is Stalled and You Don't Know Why." I think that this is a compelling article, especially for individuals who are in, corporate America. You're in this space and you're trying to figure out how does business storytelling really work internally? How does that really affect, either my bottom line or, in this case, promotion to the C-level echelon? Well, executive presence. It has everything to do with not just what you say. I mean, that's communication style, but also the look. It's the whole package. And the other thing, getting hot. The other thing is communication style. Okay. There is a particular kind of business language that is used, especially at the upper level. Now, it doesn't mean to say that you can't be yourself or you shouldn't be yourself. You should. But what I'm suggesting is that you learn the culture of the company. And a lot of you're going to see a lot of it is really the same, using a lot of we, third person plurals versus first person pronouns. And by doing that, you are, even just in that simple example, communicating yourself as a team player. If you use more colloquial language versus trying to use, and I love the fact that they use ivory tower, speech, who are you trying to impress? If you are certain about who you are as an individual and the strengths that you have and the knowledge and the expertise that you have gleaned over the years, then you should be able to explain it to a 5-year-old, so to speak, right? So yeah, storytelling is key. 64% of individuals who haven't made it to that C-level echelon is because they've been telling the wrong stories. And these factors have been encroached in what has been coined here a panda. Looks like harmless issues, but it has a bite of a jaguar that'll keep you from growing in the company or in the enterprise that you maybe have even sworn your allegiance to. So hope that was helpful, guys.